Hello there, welcome to another episode of the Allotment Dram. This is a series of short videos where we sit and talk about different whiskies in the surroundings of our North London allotment. And you join me on, quite a nice late March afternoon here. It's been a bit grey at times, spit spotting with rain at times, but otherwise perfectly okay for getting on with some jobs. And got a very noisy magpie that's just started up literally as I started recording here, so sorry about him. But of course I am here to talk about whiskey and what is the Allotment Dram today, I hear you ask. Well, something very special today, and now I quite often say it's something special or it's something new, but this really is special, and it's the Ardbeg 25 years old. Now, firstly, old Ardbegs don't really exist, and if they do, they're very expensive. But the reason that this is special is that if you think back 25 years, that puts us in the mid-90s, and for much of the 1980s and the 90s, really until sort of 1997, 1998, Ardbeg, which is on the famous whiskey island of Islay, was not really in operation. It was literally being put into production to keep it ticking over for a couple of weeks of the year in some cases, and it was actually being operated by other distillery workers from other distilleries on the island. So liquid from that time, that sort of early to mid 90s, late 80s time, is really rare. So for them to put this out, it's going into the core range, and it will be released in small batches. Now this first batch is already sold out, so we will have to look out for whenever the second batch is coming. But this is this bottle here, 5cl, that we were sent to do a review. You'll see half of it's gone already. That was on the blog review, but a full bottle is £710, which is nearly $1,000 American dollars. So and it'll be, as I say, sold out. It'll be way more than that. I've seen some going for £1,200, £1,300 on auction already, and it was only released a couple of months ago. So it's bottled at 46%, and if you think of that, £710 a bottle, comes in a lovely jet black bottle, and then in a casket which is black with sort of metallic sort of design sort of encased around it. But if you think of £710, that means that this 5cl is worth about £50. And as I say, we've had half of it for the blog review already. So what's left in here is probably £25 worth of actual whiskey. So yeah, I think without further ado, we should really get on and taste it. And I've even dug out the Ardbeg glass here because it seemed to be fitting. So let's just pop that down for a minute, and then we'll get on with it. So here comes a plane. Very few planes, normally sitting here on the flight path into Heathrow, the planes kind of come down. They're coming literally every 30 seconds, but very infrequent, obviously because of the pandemic at the moment. So I'm sure that will return at some point, but yeah, sorry about that. We've had magpies and planes, not very sort of tranquil today, but there's other birds around you that you can hear, of course, which makes it normally very peaceful. But anyway, I digress. Let's have a look at this whiskey. So here you see lovely golden colour, as I say, 46%. It's been matured in old bourbon casks, and yeah, so really light. You might expect a whiskey to be a little bit darker than this for 25-year-olds, but it's already, as soon as I poured it, it was like jumping out of the glass. Very fragrant. So let's have a smell. Oh my goodness. Well, when I said this was a real treat, this is smelling like a real treat. Old Islay whiskies can sometimes you take people by surprise, because you know, you have the younger versions, you know, Ardbeg itself, like the Ardbeg 10 or the others in the core range, or like Lefroy 10 or something like this. They're very punchy, very peaty, very smoky, whereas the smokiness subsides with time. So sometimes people can, I've seen people disappointed by, you know, tasting older Islay whiskies like, you know, Lefroy 30 or something like, you know, which is £800 or £900 a bottle, you know, and been disappointed by it because it doesn't have that punch. But this certainly has plenty. There's plenty still going on. Got a lovely sort of earthiness. It's like a sort of mix of sort of, there's a bit of ash in there as well, sort of charcoaly sort of ash, then a bit of like sort of moss and seaweed as well. But then you've also got a lovely sweetness. So there's like a butterscotch, toffee, golden syrup, some vanilla in there as well. I think it's time we had a taste. My goodness, it has an instant sort of peppery, that can sometimes be a negative, but here it's certainly a positive, a real peppery sort of quality. And then there's really interesting sort of viscous and slightly sort of chalky, flinty quality to it. Yeah, absolutely delicious. It kind of sings in the mouth, and there's, you know, all these sort of savoury flavours to begin with. You've got a sort of like old cigar box, I always call it. So it's one of those lovely decorated boxes that you get Cuban cigars in, that's not had any cigars in it for a while, but it has this wonderful evocative smell. There's some sort of old leather in there as well, and then just a sort of, still sort of singing on my tongue, this sort of spice rack. You know, it's peppery, sort of allspice, a bit of cinnamon in there as well. You know, wonderfully warming. But then you've got this sort of, it's just such a long sort of finish now. You know, the flavour profile just has this sort of damp moss. It has embers, this sort of charcoal-like quality, seaweed, and then just, you know, like iodine, you know, from a medicine cabinet, then just a little pinch of salt or brine, you know, something like that as well. So let's have another taste. I mean, you've got all of those things in abundance, but you've got then some much needed sweetness as well. It would just be too dry, too powerful without them. You know, there's things like, there's a lot of sort of honeycomb, you know, fresh honeycomb straight from the hive. It's like a lovely baked apple. It's caramelized, something tropical like pineapple. You know, when you cook pineapple on a barbecue, maybe something like that. But then underpinned with this robust sort of malty, earthy quality. It reminds me of sort of oat cookies, or you know, maybe with a pinch of ginger or cocoa or something in them. And then just this wonderfully sort of uplifting, say, sort of peppery quality carries on all the way through. But right at the end, you've got this wonderful uplifting, you know, twist of lemon zest, you know, straight off like an Amalfi lemon or something like that. But yeah, what an absolute treat. I mean, fabulous whiskey. You know, such a shame it sold out so quickly. You know, people in the know were after it like straight away, even at £710. And as I say, some are going for well over £1,000 now on auction. So absolutely delicious, and what a fabulous treat. You know, not the most expensive whiskey we've ever tasted up here, but I think it's pretty much second place. I think Glendronach Kingsman was the most expensive, but yeah, fabulous. You know, what a treat to help me then get on with my work this afternoon. So we shall say goodbye from myself and the Ardbeg 25. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this review, and we'll see you again very soon for the next Allotment Dram. Cheers.